Good afternoon. It's Tuesday. We're going to do the Tai Chi Paradigm for Parkinson's. And, today was our soft opening, and it was really soft. We had some people that came in, and we had everything in order, so it was actually a good morning. And we're going to be doing some live classes tonight. But we're here today, and, I know we have a following from the people in Parkinson's Foundation. My mic's on, right? So I'm glad you're viewing in. We're going to be doing this Tuesdays and Thursdays, Saturdays. You can actually do the YouTube, archive videos, and I hope everyone that's been following continues, because it's very important that you do this, and it's important that, and we feel this way. That's why we're continuing to do this live. All my other live classes, we've actually kind of suspended and doing them as part of our typical class. But this class is specifically geared for the people in the Parkinson's Foundation, as well as any of the students that have been following. And we have a lot of great students that have been following, that are supporters, and it's great to have them as even members with the academy. So on that note, let's hands up, turn 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Okay? Hands over here to the side. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Actually, one of the advantages of doing this live and streaming is that I don't have to wear a mask. The last class I had a mask on, and no one knew that I was growing a mustache. Hands up, reach down, stretch. 1, 2, 3 to your right, 2, 3 to your left, 2, 3 center. So with this, just go as deep as you can. Don't force it. But it's very good to get some of the tension out of the back of the legs, because that actually is going to make your lower back tighter, and sometimes people have problems with their back. So this is actually something that's very good to stretch the back of the hamstring. Release that tension if you can. You don't have to go real low. Keep your hands on your knees to kind of support yourself as you go around. And then you inhale and exhale. So the support that you have here, this becomes sort of like when you hang a, just look at this as your body being like a shelf. And then you have this bracket that has a truss, and it supports your body. So you can regulate how much release you have when you're bending over like that, so that you don't kind of free fall and overstretch if you're not used to it. So that's really something that helps you support some of that body weight that's coming over the top. And you go to the side, and go to the side, come back to center. Inhale, exhale. So remember, when we're doing the inhalation and the exhalation, it's really to allow your torso, your chest and your lungs to kind of expand and relax. So this is actually an important exercise to do, even if it's just this. Inhale, exhale. So when you inhale, you let your chest cavity relax and expand and then contract to accommodate the filling of your lungs, and the exhalation, because your diaphragm is kind of moving up and down when you breathe. So the more you work that, the deeper your breath will be, and then you kind of relax your upper body. This area, if you don't move your diaphragm, the breath is very shallow. So if you want a deep breathing, you have to actually coordinate the movement a bit with the up and down movement. Now, we don't see this happening, but you can actually feel your body lifting and then releasing as it goes down. So that's the whole premise of breathing. So breath and exercise, it's called Qigong. So Qigong is really breath and movement. So every time we breathe, if we expand and contract and let it go down, so it's opening and closing. We open and close. So all the deep breathing was really getting this to free up. And a lot of times people are a little bit stiff and rigid in this area. So we want to get that moving, because how else are you going to get good circulation in this area unless you move it? So this deep breathing exercise that we do is, if it's the only thing that you can remember to do because you have to follow the video, then do this several times a day. The stretching is something that you can do. And then this deep breathing. Inhale, then up on your toes. Exhale as you go down. Inhale. Exhale. And the more you do those few exercises, actually it works this much better. The thing going up on your toes will work your feet and work your balance and get you accustomed to using sort of the muscles in your toes, the soles of your feet, so that you get used to moving up and down. Soften your feet, because when you go up and down, it really works your toes, which is important for maintaining balance and stability. Then once we start to pivot and turn, we have more control. Okay, now, hands on your waist. This is more of releasing and relaxing the body. Now, while we think of this as a circular movement only, you're actually shifting your body weight in the lower half of your body, all the way down to the soles of your feet. So when we move our body like this, if you pay attention to how it feels in the soles of your feet are actually responding or sending impulses to your brain to let you know what's going on. So you actually heightens your sensitivity. So all the things we're talking about, heightened sensitivity, awareness, we just went the other way. And you relax the body so it has a little bit of swaying from side to side. But it's not just swaying, it's actually controlled. You're letting your body generate a circle. Okay, center. Now cross. Knees. Circular movements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So when you do this, your ankles actually have to relax, because we're actually the base of the support is your soles of your feet, and your ankles, when they relax, they allow you to kind of float between there. But the problem is a lot of times our ankles are very stiff and tight because we're just used to keeping things kind of rigid. So let's learn to let that tension go so we have some response from the joints allowing you to adapt. So the more relaxed the joints are, the more adaptability you have to a position. Because, even though we don't realize that this is happening, all of the things I'm talking about is actually happening. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to accommodate for the position. And that's just, how, pliable segments or joints work. If you press on it, it folds. If you let it go, it unfolds. If you take your finger, it goes like this and go like this. It accommodates a position until you actually force it, and then, or if it's stiff, it doesn't adapt. So that's how a rigid finger would be. But it would adapt because it yields. So yielding is something, there's a term yielding, when you drive, yield to an oncoming car or whatever. But when it comes to the body yielding, it's just adapting to a position in space. So that's really critical, especially when we're dealing with movement, walking, turning, adjusting. You adapt. Everything is adapting to, where you're headed or whatever the task is. Because we speak of functionality, right? So this goes to square position again, hands on the waist. So this is a shoulder width stance, neck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, and then tilt to the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, and stop. Okay, center, rotating. 1, 2, 3. Reverse. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the neck area, we do the stretching actually to relax the muscles and turn, just so that we can take out some of that tension, but also because movement allows the fluids, your blood to go into these areas and bring oxygen. So it sort of takes some of the tension out of there and also bring in some oxygen, so that that stiffness that you have in there, that little discomfort, it's really from lack of oxygen a lot of times. It needs oxygen from the blood that's flowing in it, because that's what brings it into the muscles. So sometimes it gets knotted up. But the other thing is that, when we turn our head to go in a direction, or if our head's there and our body turns in a direction, that's kind of a passive movement. If I turn over here like this, then my body follows. It actually has to be relaxed. So not every movement is physically turning your head. If I'm facing this way and my body kind of adjusts, the body will kind of still be able to realign in a frontal direction. So that's something that happens as a passive movement. Because in movement, a physical movement is the active. The passive movement is something that happens, as a function of something else. So if my head is there and my body turns, that becomes a function of that motion. So it allows you to adapt and accommodate that position. So this is things that happen in our movements. We have to adapt, constantly adapting a position. So all of these concepts, and they are concepts. You have to pick up on those strategies, and then over time, your body will start to, learn sort of the principle that's driving our movements. So that's what the Tai Chi Paradigm has to offer. Inhale, exhale. It's really a strategy to build body intelligence. So newer people, if you haven't done this, or you pull in like this. When you pull in, you relax the elbows. You turn. So when your elbow goes up, your shoulders have to relax. Once they're flat, you open up, and it should be level, and then down. And so you have to feel what that position feels like. Now, if you have tension and you go up on your toes, that could feel level to you. But unless you let it go, it's sort of like water. You put it in a vessel, then you tilt it. The water actually seeks a level. It just flattens out by itself. Doesn't matter what the shape of the object is. The water just stays level. So when you lift your body, it's like your body is fluid. So it's like the water leveling. And then that only happens when it's relaxed. What happens if you have a block of ice and you tilt it? It tilts with the object. So that means rigidity, like that ice, keeps you from staying level because it doesn't float. So let your body float. Let it adapt to a position, and you'll feel much more in control and level. So that's kind of an analogy. Everything that I do, I kind of bring in an analogy so that you can kind of understand what the concept is. Because without that concept, you're just kind of thinking you understand it. So I try to take the second guessing out of it so that you can get the truest benefit from the information, because then your body will adapt and become accustomed to everything that I'm talking about. So then when we're here, with hands and waist, we're going to pivot, we're going to open up, and we're going to spin or turn the spine. So here again, we're swinging the arm. Keep the shoulders relaxed so it just kind of wraps the body. And you can probably feel a little bit more blood going to your fingertips because you're creating kind of a centrifugal force. Okay, so that gets some circulation go to the fingertips, but it loosens your joints. Get a twist, and then center. Okay, pull your heels together, hands on your waist. Now we're going to straighten the feet. 1, 2. 1, 2. So that's triangle to squares. Triangle to squares. 2 of the geometric shapes that I talk about is triangles, squares, and the third one is hoops or circles. Okay, here again, ball of the foot to the heel, ball of the foot to the heel, ball of the foot to the heel, ball of the foot to the heel. Okay, so that's 45 and 45. That's a total of 90 degrees. 90 degrees is the corner movement or the triangle. So you form a corner. And then I'm going to pivot like this. So now the feet are both 45. Then I'm going to turn my torso, and this straightens out. I go forward and back, forward and back. Now we're going to turn 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's so it's kind of a sequence. You're going 1, 2, forward and back, 3 and 4. Ball of the foot, pivot, forward and back. Now this foot is going to turn. That's a 90-degree turn. And then this foot pivots and straightens. Kick this heel out. Pivot this foot. Go forward and back. 1, 2. Kick this feet out. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So it's square, turn. My body faces the corner. Now I'm going to turn 90 degrees, forward and back. Now I'm going to turn toward you, square the feet. I'm going to turn this way, forward and back. 1 and 2. So it's really steering you in a direction. Why do I keep my hands on my hip? Because your upper body and the lower body has to work as a unit. And it also is a relationship because the mind and the body have to work together. If I just let my hands do this, there's no relationship. So we really want to get our body to be working completely as a unit. So that when your upper body and lower body combine, then you have balance and movement. You also have the relationship, and it also gives you the understanding of how your center of mass kind of counterbalance each other. And you say, well, where does that happen? Well, when we walk, we move. When we walk, when we move like this, we always have this relationship whether we pay attention or not. In fact, probably, you could spend 6 decades of your life not even understanding why your arms swing with your legs. Then you take up Tai Chi and you say, well, that's a relationship. Well, where was that missed throughout the 60 years? It's because people don't actually pay attention to that. And it's not a concept that actually is really understood by most people because, it's just something that we've done. Arms swing and legs move. That's it. But the thing is, when you're doing something like Tai Chi or Tai Chi Paradigm, I bring all of these ideas up because that's fundamentally what happens. So we're learning a lot about body mechanics, why it has to be like this. Because when you understand this, the tendency to do more of it becomes something that you gravitate toward. Because without understanding it, it's just another motion, another movement. So I like to take this level of understanding to a heightened level, because the more you understand about how things happen, it'll support your understanding of maybe the progression of what your body is going through. And with Parkinson's, it's a motor skill. So understanding how motor skill works will help you understand why movement is so essential, why learning movement, programming it, and getting it to happen is so essential. Because, everything happens up here that is sort of exposed or expressed in your body. Pointing your finger, stop. These are all gestures. If you point like that, that means go that way, or you point at something, or you use your palms to represent something. Those are gestures. So when we're doing movements, you're gesturing. If I turn in a direction, I'm heading over there. But how do you get from here to there when your body starts to freeze up? So you learn, I'm here, I pivot, and I turn, and I step. I pivot, and I turn, and I step. So that's sort of like the robotic way of doing things, but that's how we do everything anyways. We don't realize that that's what the body is doing. It's just that we just go there and it happens. There's a method to the madness that when we turn and we're headed there, I turn 90 degrees and I turn here, and I turn 45 degrees and I turn here. So just think of 0, 45, and 45. You really don't move more than 45 degrees at one's increment. It's a pivot to get you in a direction. And you finish that, and now you've completed the 45-degree movement, pivot. Now you've completed that. Now this one's actually fairly easy. We turn 90 degrees and we turn this way. So in order to pivot our foot, what's important? Is it the foot? Is it the look? Or is it the hip? It's really the hip. So when you pivot like this, you have to relax this joint. Just like if I lift my arm, you have to relax this joint. If I drop my elbow, you have to relax this joint. If I press down, I relax this joint. If I pull it back to here, I relax this joint. So the whole premise of everything that we're doing and learning is to release the tension in the joints. By releasing the tension, it allows for the creation of movement. If your body is very rigid, it doesn't allow for the creation of space. Because when we make space and we open our lungs and, well, fill our lungs actually with air, then you have to allow for that space to be accommodated. So if the body's very stiff, you're going to have a very shallow breath. Shallow breath means you're not going to get enough oxygen throughout the body. If your body doesn't move at all, you'll have difficulty breathing. So that's really part of that. Learning to deep breathe, learning to expand and contract is all part of that. Okay, so that's the pivotal side of all the things that we're doing and taking us in direction. Now we're going to go like this. We're going to do the silk reeling exercise. So this is really holding the ball and doing this. So over the last 3.5, 4 months that people have been following, we've been developing this motion. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so that's really the 5 positions that we pass through till we get back to here. So this is really, if I turn back to the front, is really like this. If I spread my hands and I turn back to here, I'm facing this way now. I have my hands here. If I turn towards you, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're turning the torso 45 degrees. So what allows us to turn the torso is it's rotating in the small of your back, and you're turning in this direction, and you're turning in this direction. That area of the back is kind of, say, dysfunctional in the sense that most people don't realize that they can move that area, because we're always sitting, we're always in a position where the back muscles don't work as a give and take. When I turn my back and I turn my back, the muscles in the lower back are actually engaging, and it creates circulation in that area. So that's very important to turn and face in a certain direction. But if this is rigid, then what do you have to rely on? Either you pivot your feet or you turn your hips. So we have to actually turn the body a little bit to get us in motion so that it works together. Without the turning of the back, it's very hard to, connect any of the movements that we have, like this or like this, because there is some engagement of the ribs, and your, the torso area has to be much more relaxed. So the thing is, if this is a problem for bradykinesis or stiffness in the upper body, then we have to learn to move the upper body so that it becomes a volunteer action. Because a motor skill is that. You have to say, okay, do this, the body has to respond. Do this, it has to respond. But we have a little difficulty getting that to happen. So by doing some simple drills like this, and we just turn and follow, and then you do the best that you can, but frequency is important. If you do this once a week, then you really don't develop. Do it every day. It doesn't take a lot to turn your body like this 10 times. If I ask you to carry a 100-pound weight and do that 5 times, okay, that's pretty, taxing, and it is pretty heavy to lift that. But you're dealing with just your space, and a simple movement like this. And a simple movement like this. So that's what we're doing with the warm-ups. They're all on video. If you follow that, you can actually follow maybe just the first 10 exercises, maybe 5 times a week. It's not asking too much of your time, but the thing is, you have to do it regularly. Otherwise, your body really doesn't recognize what it needs to do to learn that, because everything has to be developed over time. So that's really basically what has to happen. So when I turn, and here I turn here, and then I hold the ball, and I turn again, back to center, and I turn again. Now when we break this down, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it's 1, 2, 3. This is vertical here. So that's your look. And then we turn over here and bring it down. So this is called silk reeling. You're going forward, across, and back. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay? 1, 2. Split the hands, separate the hands. Turn. Bring it down. Bring this hand to your shoulder. That's the opposite shoulder. The arms look like they are parallel on a slant. Then this hand goes up, and then this hand strokes down like this. Then you turn and bring the other hand down. Now both hands are here. And I'll just show you that that's kind of in this position. So you have hands down. You have one hand here. You have one hand here. Okay, you have one hand here, one hand here. So those are 3 basic starting positions. You have this on this side, and this without any body form, and this. Those are the 3 positions on this side. That's one side. Then you have this side. So you see the contrast the movements. You have one on this side and one on this side. So this is heading that way. This is heading that way, and the hands are here. So this is heading that way, and that's going that way. Then when they separate, they just do that. When they separate, they do that. And then if I come down, so I just did this. Now look at this. This is the same movements, but why does it look so different? It looks so different because you haven't gone into a different space, and then you haven't created the connection continuously. The volume of movement hasn't been associated with the 2 movements, so they look like 2 completely different things. So movements are created in the space that we're talking about, and that's what I hope you to develop. Some spatial awareness, consciousness of how to develop the movements, and mindfulness. Pay attention to what's going on, so you're always focused. Because if the subconscious behavior isn't present, then you have to rely on the consciousness of that position or movement. So like if you get to a corner, or you get to a point where you want to turn, you have to be aware and conscious that this is what has to happen, and then you take your step. This is what has to happen, then you take your step. So it's kind of relearning everything using these as stepping stones and training tools to heighten your awareness, your consciousness of movement. So these are all things that I think are important, especially if you have some of these issues. Everyone's different. Everyone has different responses with this training, and everyone has different symptoms. That sometimes is trembling, sometimes is shaking. I've had different people have different symptoms during the class, and I try to get people to understand, when you're in a position, have a little bit of tension or energy in the movement, but don't become too rigid. If you don't have any of that, then try to relax even more. And then generate a shape. The shapes that we have are really triangles, squares, and hoops. So with these movements, that's what that is. Instead of staying like this, we go to here. That's a cross hand position. Okay? So the cross hand position leads to this. Opening and closing. So that's more of the expansion and contraction. Expand and contract. So every time you hear the word expand, think of filling with air. Contracted. Fill the balloon, empty but a balloon. So that's really what your lungs are going through. Expand and contract. And expand and contract. Expand and contract. Expand and contract. Okay, good. So that's called opening and closing. If we go like this, it's called preparation, circular movements. So when they bring your hands up, just let them float up to about shoulder height. Drop your elbows and press down. Now when you drop your elbow, the hand's going to come toward you. Then once it gets to the vertical line, you start to drop it down. So that's on this side. Now on this side, it does the same thing. We combine the two, it looks like this. Okay, now we go to lower hoop. That's circular lower hoop position. Clear your thoughts. These are also fairly simple to do because it doesn't require a lot of movement. You're holding a position. So build off of these different exercises. Get familiar with the most simple ones and then build toward the more complex movements like silk reelings, a little more complex. Open and closing, a little bit more complex. This is fairly easy, holding a lower hoop. Then we go to a shoulder height position. Important thing is release, relax, and let go. Let go meaning tension. Okay, now that we're here, that's lower and middle hoop. We're going to drop to a triangle position. So that's the triangle. Spread the hands. Hold the ball. Knees are slightly bent for all these three positions. Breathe through the nose. Tongue touching the roof of your mouth. Okay, good. Now we're going to lower the hands. Press down. Now you straighten. Lift. The spine opens up. Your chin is in slightly, not completely tucked. Just lower it a little bit. Take the tension out of the nape of your neck. And then lift from above. Press down and then relax your fingers so they extend downward. Okay, hands up, deep breathing, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Okay, let's go back to here. So we shift the legs a little bit or shift the hip. And then we want to shift to one side till it feels like you're settled into that balance point. And then you move this leg, then you shift and you move this leg. So that balance point is the point that holds could potentially hold all of your weight. So that's what we're trying to find when we shift and balance, shift and balance. So your body will compensate for where your body position is, because when we shift and balance, then we can actually step forward and back, forward and back. Because we're going forward, we're going to do this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and stop. Now we're going to do the other side. Now we're going to go forward. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now when we go forward, you can pause for a second and then go back. Pause for a second. It just gives you a sense of where those positions are. And then over time you start to feel the position, and positions are identified. You have to assimilate and then experience what that feels like as a balance, and then let it go. So when you let it go, you're relaxing. That's all that's happening. Once you relax, it's letting go of the tension. Now you regulate the speed in which you're doing this. Then you do the other side. Other side. Other side. And other side. Okay, good. Shake it out. So those are the equal opposite counterbalancing movements. Okay, let's do, I'm going to face the mirror. We're going to do carry tiger to the mountain. Okay, now we're going to go, I think people like frontal image better. This is easier to follow. Like this, 1, cross, 2, and lower. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2. This is called carry tiger to the mountain. So there's lower all the way up to upper hoop, palms out, cross the hands, and down. Lift up, go out, go in, and down. We're going to go one more time. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, next, infinity sign. A figure 8 on its side. So movements are just creating arcs. Arcs are parts of circles. So every movement actually in Tai Chi is some form of arc or circle. In fact, our body only can move in arcs or circles, but we look at the body being able to create straight lines, but it's really an illusion. It's really creating a straightness from the round, and the only way to do movements is really straightening out or elongating the curvature to create sort of the illusion of that straightness. So that's a concept, or it's actually really what's happening. So you say, what does that mean? Well, this is straight relative to this line because it's such a big arc. The bigger the arc, the more, the straighter it appears to be. But if I'm going like this, there's a straightness here, then there's a straightness here. then there's a curve on the end. So with movement, we're controlling and regulating what is straight, what is circular. Now, when I go like this, you say, well, that's really straight. Where is the arc in that? Well, because I took the dimension out of the movement by going flat. What about when I went like this? It's just a line, but there's an arc that crosses here because the center of that circle is here. Just like this is a straight line, but it's really an arc coming from here. Because this is closer, further, further, further. This is the optimum point. That's 90 degrees, and it goes up. So that's an arc. So we don't see that, that curvature because we're seeing it from a front view. But you see that it looks like it's straight. So that's on that vertical line is the horizontal line. It looks straight. It's flat. So when you take a cross-section of something and it looks flat, it looks straight. So that's why when we're doing movements, you have to really imagine what's going on in the space. Okay, hands up, deep breathing, inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. So when we walk, we're actually creating arcs. And what happens with the arc, and because we're keeping this plane, is because we're walking straight. So we're able to create a straight line from point A to point B, but we're really creating it through this. We're creating it through this. So when I step, and 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 I step, the trueness of this line is the accuracy of your movement. The accuracy of that movement allows you to go from point A to point B efficiently and without any hindrance because the body is moving without tension, staying as fluid as possible. So the fact that we do this exercise allows you to develop some of that fluidity by doing it over and over again. And that will help you improve your mobility and the idea of what your body has to do when it's walking and it's taking its step. Because we can do this by just doing it, but if you understand the body mechanics behind what has to happen, you can refine those movements. All right? So good. So now we just did the infinity sign. Now we're going to form the fist and punch. So when we form the fist, that's fairly complicated. So you see my elbows go out, and then they come back in. Then we're in vertical, it goes back and forth. If you see the side view, it's palm up, you roll, you go back, and you go forward. So there's forward and back, up and down, and right and left built into the little wrist movement here. So you have your punch, that's forward and back. You have your rolling, you look at the elbows. So all of these are manipulating your skeletal structure. You're here, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then there is actually some knees and elbow integration, but that's actually something that happens as a function of elbows and knees. So you don't have to get sophisticated in that sense. You can build off of that, but just remember the upper and the lower body does connect, but get the hand movement and the pattern first. A triangle. Strum the lute. That's a circular movement. On one side it's a half a circle. Here's your half a circle created by this arc and this. Okay, just strum the lute. One right and left, one left side. So we just alternate the hands. Now we're going to go to a thumbs up position. Palms together. Flip the shoulders. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and stop. Now we're going to go to the opposite side. Let's do this side. Thumbs up, palms up. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2. Now palms down. Okay, hands up again. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Go open your toes if you can. Balance, balance, balance. Let go. So you contract, you go up on the toes. It's like a toe raise. And then let go, and your feet relax. Everything goes down. So that's a deep breathing exercise. Working your feet actually is very important. So you build some strength into your feet. But remember what I said, movement is the key to circulation. Well, if you go up on your toes, there's muscles that work. They contract and they release, and they contract and they release. So what happens? You get better circulation to the lower extremities. Right? That's something that we need to keep going because, people that have cold feet, or maybe lack of circulation, or fluids kind of building up in the legs, you have to move. You have to get toe raises or some type of lower activity, which really has to do with walking, leg swing, or leg in and out. That actually helps. So all of the things that we do, because we're standing, what do you think is going on in the low half? It's working to keep us in a vertical position. And because we're doing that and shifting and going forward and back, the muscles in the lower part of our body is constantly working. So, that's something that's important. Hands up again. I'm going to do the deep breathing in. Remember, fold. The palm goes facing you. Then you drop your elbows or drop the palm so the elbow pivots. Then this slices directly to shoulder width, and you're up on your toes and down. You go up, pull in, inhale, and it all coordinates. And if it takes some effort or it takes some time to develop that, spend, each day maybe do it a half a dozen times. That's all you need to do. The more you do each frequently, the less, likely you're going to forget how to do it. So do it just a couple of 3 times, and over time, maybe 3 to 5 weeks, a lot of these things will start to make sense. Okay, so we have carry tiger to the mount. There's lower hoop, middle hoop, upper hoop. Okay, we have all these positions. Okay, now let's go like this. Draw the bow. Turn. Draw the bow. Turn. Draw the bow. Turn. Draw the bow. So the alignment of your body now directly to the side, 180 degrees. We merge in the center. We have one here, and then we have one here. Okay, so this is draw the bow. Even though it's 180 degrees from side to side, it's still only a 90-degree draw. Because here's 0, 45, and 90. Back to center, 45 and 90. See what I mean? Increments of 45 degrees, and you can't go wrong. All right, so let's have, we got, about 15 minutes? Okay, so I want to do the clockwise circle before we forget this exercise. I want you to do this. So this is counterclockwise, and this is clockwise. Now remember, when we take our step, we can't walk from the shoulder width stance. We have to take our step from the stepping stance, where your feet are about 2 inches apart. If your feet are completely touching, you're actually a little bit too compressed. So find about 2 inches apart, or just a little bit wider, because you want to be tracking that center line when you take your step. 2, 3. Go back. 1, 2, 3. So when you pass through center, that's what would happen. So we want to step on the right and go clockwise. Remember, I did this in the last few classes. 1, 2, 3. So when we go clockwise, it's going to the right and go backwards to the left. Okay? So you go up on the right and back on the left. And last time I used the analogy of the street. You go up on the right side and you go back on the left. And we're talking about in the U.S. Other countries do it another way. Mainly the British use the other side. They're opposite. We're actually going forward and back, right, left, going backwards, right, forward, left, back. Okay, now when we go forward, we're going clockwise. That's moving forward. That's like screwing in, like a screw goes in forward, clockwise. You unscrew something, it goes backwards. So we go backwards toward the left. So in fact, when you turn, it's going toward the left. When we go to the right, we're going forward. So that gives you, something to reference. Forward, right, left, back, right, forward, left, back. So that happens in the arms as well as the legs. So that's something you can do. Just 3 steps forward, 3 steps backwards. Try to coordinate the hands and legs. Okay, then we have the cloud hand movements, which is this. 1. So what is that? This exercise that we have is one direction. So this goes clockwise, this goes counterclockwise, and then it completes its cycle. And the opposite is this, but in cloud hands, we're using this one. Okay, now cloud hands, we go vertical, switch. The difference is the timing. When one is up, one is down. Now we shift to the side, we shift to the side, we shift to the side. So it's kind of tying in a couple of actions that we have. Every movement is some form of action. So when I move to my left, at some point I could get my weight over here and this foot would come in. At some point I could move to my right and my foot would come over. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's a shift of weight because when my body goes this way, there's a center line. When my body goes this way, there's a center line. Goes this way, there's a center line. This way, there's a center line. Okay, so what you're developing is sort of body intelligence and an understanding that your body has to be always controlling your center and your mass. The center is the line where either it's vertical, it doesn't really matter, it's this way. It doesn't matter. 360 degrees, you only have one vertical position that's centered. So when you shift your weight, you're always looking for that position or that position. If I turn, I'm always looking for that position or that position. If I turn back, if I turn again, I'm looking for this position. If I turn back this way, I'm looking for this position. So the only thing you're looking for is which weight, where's your weight going? Which foot has that weight? So if I go in this direction and I take a step, that's where my weight goes. And then you support that before you take a step. If I turn in this direction and I keep don't tip over, there's a void there. When I take a step here, just get your spine on the vertical position, support that weight, and then move that foot. So that's sustaining a position and carrying your weight over that supporting foot. That's your center of mass. The more you practice any of this side to side, hands here or here, your body actually is always doing some form of getting your body weight over that foot. So if it's essential in walking, what is it? It's essential to find your center and then you step through the center as a pass-through. But once you pass through, don't just abruptly drop your weight, because you have to touch down, heel to toe. Then you have to shift the weight as a transition, find your center, and then move through it. Find your center, and move through it. So if you just take those 3 steps, feeling your movement, softening your feet, and allow the legs work like hourglasses. You know what hourglasses or a minute glass? The sand that sifts through the hourglass slowly fills with weight. So when you shift, fill that slowly. Once it's all done, then you take that next step. So that's just an analogy. It doesn't mean you have to stand there for a minute or an hour trying to get that to siphon through or sift through. Just an idea. It's just a concept. It's a metaphor. So you can use that as something to guide your movement. When you get your center there and it's there, shift your weight, then it's there. Then you can either walk like that, or circle, 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 circle. So those are some valuable tools to work with, with what you need as building coordination, shifting of weight, and space. Space is really important. Proprioception, knowing your body in space, knowing thyself in space, and increase, the sort of the volume of that space by moving. Because if everything is just in hand, very tight and flat, you're not going to develop that spatial awareness and feeling of space. Because really, space is, something we're building. Make it tangible. You can move into a space. That's what we're doing in Tai Chi. We're moving in space. And that's just a circle. Okay, so Lucian, what do we got there? Okay, so hopefully you got something out of that. I'll see you Thursday, same time. We're at 12:15 now. So we'll go through the class, and hopefully you can pick up on some of the little things we're doing. All right, if you're doing Facebook, give us a subscribe, thumbs up. If you're not using YouTube, you can go there. You will have all these archived videos there. All right, I'll see you next time.